just about to drive the silver MR2 home from the workshop because, well, there's no need for it to be here now. It's absolutely fine. I went to do this a little while ago and I drove it home and I drove it back and it didn't blow up or fall apart or anything, but, and it fucking shit me up, the temperature gauge on the dash went absolutely off the scale, like literally beyond hot, so exploding temperature. And the car seemed fine, but it was, you know, understandably I pulled over, but the temperature on here, water temperature, was completely normal, kind of low if anything, and the oil temperature was also similar to that, which generally oil temp does its best to follow water temp depending on your cooling setup. But generally, I mean, put it this way, if that was off the clock, which would have been 120 plus, steam pouring out everywhere, there's no way that would have been at bloody 75. So in the end I was like, fuck it. I noticed the gauge falling back down quite rapidly, so I thought, oh, some kind of fault, I think. So rather than, you know, call the AA or something, I just carried on driving it, and I drove it back and then back to here the next day, and again all the next day it was off the clock, but it was fine. And yeah, it was pretty obvious, almost certainly to me, that was just a fault. It wasn't really overheating. And once I got here, I checked all the pipes. They wasn't pressurized, they wasn't even very hot, so it wasn't a fault, you know, it wasn't overheating, it wasn't pressurizing the system somehow, like, you know, a blown head gasket. It was all healthy. But I still need to get that working properly, because, well, as much as that will tell me the truth, I want an easy to look at, you know, water temperature gauge. I don't want to have that on the water temp all the time when it's meant to be monitoring other stuff. The crack on the screen's getting worse, but yeah, all in all, it's going alright. So now I'm gonna drive this car back, because it doesn't need to be at the workshop anymore. It just needs to kick around at home until I get a date for mapping. I don't even know if you can hear me, but just on the motorway, as you can probably see, the gearing is quite low on this. This is, you know, 6th gear, but Volkswagen Audi wheels tend to be like 18s, whereas this is like 15s. So yeah, 3 grand is about 70 miles an hour, but coolant's fine, everything's fine. And all you can hear is turbo noises. Only spot welded in place for now, but I have the 3-inch to 4-inch cones on the turbos. So 4-inch, and it's going to be the full 4-inch exhaust on each. So that's that bit done. I don't even know how much of an exhaust is going to be, because yeah, they're going to be at the back of the car, so there's not much room for an exhaust. It's funny, when I first started this car, in one of the earliest videos, maybe the first or second one of this car, I compared it to the new Porsche Cayman GT4, and, you know, in dimensions and this, that, it was surprisingly similar. But I realised something else earlier. It's actually much, much closer, like exactly the same wheelbase right down to the last millimetre, to one of my favourite cars ever. And that's a car that's also a very similar layout to this, and that's a bloody Ferrari F40. Ferrari F40s are 2.9 litre twin turbo mid-engine, obviously a V, it's a V8 though. They've got exactly the same wheelbase as a Mark III MR2, bizarrely enough. And yeah, this is a very similar layout. Mine's a 2.8, they're a 2.9. 2 turbos, mine are bigger, but you know, they're going to rev high, both similar. And when I was thinking about that, I was like, you know what, considering I ain't got that much room back there and I like things to be simple, I'd rather do what Ferrari did with the F40, and rather than run a wastegate each, just run one big one, like that big bastard. This thing's huge, teal 60mm, and it's absolutely fucking gigantic. I mean, there's lots of 60mm on the market, and they've all got the same valve size, but this teal one is just physically fucking bigger, which looks cooler. It's a wanker in packaging terms, but it looks amazing. So yeah, it would really suit this. So my initial plan was to run 2 of the Forge Motorsport wastegates, because I've already got one. Unfortunately, they're no longer in production. They don't make them anymore, so I can't order the second one. So that's what made me think, fuck it, you know what, I don't want to buy 2 wastegates. Wastegates are expensive. And I like the idea, and I like the look of how the F40's layout, engine bay layout is. You got the engine, you got the 2 turbos behind it, much like how this is going to be, and a big external wastegate in the middle. And then they've got like the triple exhaust with, you know, each turbo's exhaust either side, and the wastegate pipe, literally factory screamer pipe, in the middle. So in my head at least, that's what I would like to do on this. I mean, I don't know until I start mocking things up, but in my head I think that would be pretty cool. Also, this shows a bit better the turbine wheels. These are big turbos. They've got tiny turbine housings but big turbine wheels. It's like GT30 sort of size turbine wheels, which is quite a lot for what's effectively 1.4 litre a turbo. On the subject of mocking up, I've done this. The engine is bolted to my other gearbox. The gearbox we were just talking about is there, and it's roughly in place. I say roughly because it's all got to go up a bit more. It's the right distance front to back, but it's got to go higher, which means the subframe is got to be cut and modified, which we knew anyway. That was the plan all along, so no surprise there. But yeah, I mean, it's in the right place. If you look at like that's the hubs, and that is the gearbox output. So it's roughly in the right place. Height wise, it's probably able to go up a bit higher. And this is the kind of room we've got space wise. It's close here so far, but that's kind of because the engine's slightly on the piss, so ignore that at the moment. Much more room at the front than I expected, which is good because it makes it even easier to work on. Gives more room for shit like pipes and all that. Because yeah, part of this is to make it easy to work on. And as you can probably see from that, absolute ton of room, because it's going to go a bit higher, but an absolute ton of room for whatever kind of intake I want, which is fucking perfect. So yeah, it's very, very cool so far. The next job is to unbolt the anti-roll bar, or cut it off, or do something. I'm going to probably cut it off because I'm going to run at rated ones anyway, and cut that subframe. Sounds drastic, but have you seen the rest of it? Not really drastic. I've done a little bit more, sort of getting it more correctly in. So I did a little bit more chopping, not much, a little bit here and there, you know, minor stuff. The main thing I chopped a little bit more of was the subframe, and now it's plenty. I mean, now it's, if you put a spirit level on it, side to side and front to back, it's dead level. So it's near as damn it in the right place. Height wise, it's about right for where the drive shafts are versus the hubs, and like floor pan wise, I'll see if I can show you. But you look at where the body is and where the sump is around about the same height as the floor pan. There's the hub height, look. So obviously the hub's on, you know, relatively full droop, and that goes through there, so that's round about the correct position. I don't know if we want to go any higher or if we should or what, but that is something I would leave for Thomas's expertise, because obviously he's like engine swap king. So you know, I wouldn't finalize engine position myself like the last, you know, few mil, up or down, front or back, whatever, but this is round about within very small distances how it's going to fit. I mean, it's good because it gives me plenty of room all round. So obviously this will be, I'm going to make a removable like aluminium cover for this entire bit, so none of this will be normally visible, of course, because it would kind of be a bit noisy and smelly if you was actually sitting in there with this. But I'll make some kind of engine cover. I'm guessing just a aluminium cover, I'm not sure, I'll do something. But yeah, that's its final position, I would say, and it's bloody good. Don't really want to go any higher, I don't think, but it's all good. And because of that, also one thing you might notice, it's a lot less dirty and disgusting than it was. Basically I got it in position and I thought, you know what's pissing me off now, although I'm not into clean cars, this car's fucking disgustingly dirty. So I spent an hour cleaning everything. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not like super clean, but it's not like, it's not minging like the rest of it is. It's just I wiped everything over, so I was at least working on a good surface, and what was going to do the engine justice, really, because it just seemed wrong having like badass engine and gearbox and this crazy swap and 2 turbos and whatever, and then it all sitting in like a grubby mess. So I've made it look nice, and this is where I reckon the turbos are going to sit. There's the exhaust manifolds, go very nicely to the turbos. They are high enough and forward enough that it will work for oil returns back to the sump, so that's not a problem. Easy enough to access. I reckon air filters I'm gonna do like I did on the 18T, but both sides, so filters in here going through this hole, which I'll probably enlarge even more, so it can be 4-inch pipe to some filters here and over there. Wastegate wise, I'm pretty certain I'm going, wow, wastegate and exhaust wise, I'm going Ferrari F40 style. I think this car shares a weirdly large amount of things with how Ferrari F40 is laid out, and I think the wastegate would be one as well, so it'd be one pipe from either side, merging, and then go into the big external wastegate in the middle. And I've angled it about how the F40 one is. I reckon just like the F40, I'm going to have 3 centre exit pipes, so 1 screamer in the middle, 3, just like a, you know, just like the F40, so it'll probably be like a 4-inch pipe from either exhaust, from either turbo, I mean, and then a 2.5 or 3 or whatever screamer in the middle of the 2. So yeah, I think that will work pretty nicely and look badass. It'll be fucking loud, but you know, that's life. As cool as it is to have the turbine wheels on show like that, you know, and you could have the fucking exhaust straight out, I don't think that's really practical. I know none of this is practical, but you know what I'm saying. This is still going to be a road car, so it needs to be about as ridiculous as a fucking hypercar, not something that shouldn't see the road. Do you know what I mean? So it needs some kind of exhaust. I'm probably going to run, I reckon I'm going to run 2 of those, you know, like the tailpipe cats on my 180T. I reckon I'm going to run 2 of them, 1 for each turbo as the tailpipes. I just don't think I'm going to have room for a silencer. But hey, that's what a turbo is. Turbo is a silencer. Apart from that, the only unknown I have so far, as in undecided really, well, I got a few, but the 2 main ones is the inlet manifold style, but that's mostly going to be dictated by the main question, which is boost pipes and cooling. I got a few options. Technically, I would have room for a big charge cooler or something there, but personally, I'm not a fan. It would make the engine bay cramped, it would heat soak. I just don't think it's very, I'm not a fan of putting anything cooling wise in an engine bay. It's inefficient in my opinion. You know, charge cooler, intercooler, anything, it's just no. So the other option, and to be honest, probably the best one so far, would be, again, just like my air filter thing with on this, a double version of what I did on the 180T. So 2 of those charge coolers, 1 here, 1 over there. There's enough room, I won't say plenty of room, but there's enough room for 1 each. It would leave relatively short boost pipe run, not like that really matters, but it's neat and tidy. And going by the charge temps I'm seeing so far, at least on the 180T one, it'd be very effective. So that's probably the way I'll go. And it leaves me to still have a passenger seat, which I'm not completely sold on, as in I'd rather not have a passenger seat but have an effective setup than having a passenger seat but compromise on performance. You know, going fast is more important to me than taking people out on passenger rides. But you know, without a passenger seat, there's tons of room for any kind of fucking cooler you want there. The third option, which you know was done in the Japanese Super GT racing with the Mark II, and I know of at least 1 Mark III MR2 being done like this, is a front mount. You know, boost pipes along the transmission tunnel somewhere, you know, through the bay, and to a front mount. My only slight question with that would be, once the cage is in and once the seats are in, how much room there actually is for that, because obviously it needs, considering the power level, the boost pipes have got to be quite big, probably 3 inch at least, 3, I would say 3.5, a good size, you know. So yeah, at least 3.25, something like that. So I think the intercooler inlet and outlets, the big GTR drag intercooler I got, I think they're 3.5. The throttle body diameter is about 3.5, so it kind of makes sense to be that. I just don't know if there's room for 3.5 pipes, because obviously I've got, you know, if I was running on automatic or paddle shift or something, then there's fucking tons of room down the middle. But it's a manual, you know. I want, you know, I ain't made of money, I can't afford a fucking sequential paddle shift fanciness. It's a manual box, a strong manual box. So yeah, that one I will probably, all of this will probably honestly be only decided once the cage is in. You know, it's there's too many question marks. I mean, I prefer intercoolers because there's just less stuff, simpler. There's no fucking, you know, radiators down the front for the intercooler, no coolant lines, no fucking nothing. There's less to go wrong, there's less to leak, there's less to everything. But it's hard to deny how effective a good charge cooler setup can be. Two of the versions I've got on the 18T one would be good, but it involves two fair sized charge cooler radiators at the front, 2 or 4, probably 4 pipes running back to front. You know, it starts taking up about as much room, if not more, than the front mount intercooler idea. So it depends. It really does depend what looks like it fits nicer. And yeah, honestly, apart from that, for now at least, I would say that's it. I think the next main job, and this really does need Thomas's help, or Thomas's expertise, is to confirm engine position, and so the engine is mounted basically. Because once the engine is mounted, I can do the vast majority of the stuff. Do you know what I mean? Once the engine position's in place, I can do all the boost pipe work, I can do fucking exhaust, I can do everything, you know, and get the car mostly together. But until then, until the engine's confirmed that's the exact place, you won't want to do anything like that, of course, because otherwise things might not fit afterwards. So yeah, this is where we are at the moment, and I must admit it's fucking cool as hell. Super badass. You know, that is proper. It's a shame there's engine cranes in the way, but this is proper supercar shit going on here, and it's a crappy yellow MR2, but a crappy yellow MR2 that's genuinely becoming a budget hypercar. It's not even a supercar. It's going to be the power to weight ratio. It's way beyond that. It's like a fucking rocket ship, and I can't wait. It's going to sound mental. It's going to go mental. It's probably going to look rubbish, because I kind of like the idea of it looking a bit like a crappy tatty MR2. And it's not actually going to cost that much money. It's going to take a bit of time. Not that much time. I mean, look at the progress I've made already. But yeah, this ain't a 5-minute job. But hey, there you go. And on that note, I think this will actually do for the video. It's quite long, but it's badass. You either watch it or you don't. I don't care. This don't really make me much money. Any money. Actually, it made me, if you want to know, it made me about £35 last month off YouTube. Wow. Actually, not worth my time and trouble. The reason I'm doing it is this gives myself a record of stuff. It's not like I'm doing it for any real gain for me. This is purely for myself. So there you go. Alright, I'm gonna go. See you next time. Bye bye.